If you always know exactly what the people around you need, what mood they're in, what would make them happy, but go completely blank the moment someone asks what you want, I want you to know this. You're not codependent. You're fluent in everyone but yourself, and that uncanny ability to read other people was never a weakness. It was a skill you had to master before you ever had a self of your own to consult. Codependent has become a word we throw at people who care too much, who give too much, who lose themselves in someone else's life. And it's usually said like an accusation, as if the problem were a failure of willpower, a person who just won't put themselves first. But that framing misses the entire origin of the thing. Nobody decides to abandon themselves. This kind of attunement to others is learned, early, and almost always in a home where reading the room wasn't optional. It was survival. When a child grows up around a parent who is unpredictable, or fragile, or whose moods determine whether the house is safe, that child develops an exquisite radar for other people's inner states. They have to. Their well-being depends on it. Think about what that actually requires of a small person. To stay safe, they have to point all their attention outward, constantly scanning. Is mom okay? Is dad about to blow? What does this person need from me so that things stay calm? There's no attention left over to point inward, to notice their own feelings, their own wants, their own needs. Those get shelved, indefinitely, because tending to yourself is a luxury you can't afford when you're busy managing everyone else's weather. So the child becomes a world-class expert in other people and a complete stranger to themselves. And that's not a character defect. That's an adaptation. A brilliant one. The trouble is, the radar doesn't switch off when you grow up. You walk into adulthood still scanning every room, still anticipating everyone's needs, still organizing your whole self around keeping other people okay. And when someone finally turns to you and says, "But what do you want?" you feel a strange panic because the muscle that's supposed to answer that question was never developed. You spent your whole childhood becoming fluent in others. You were never given the chance to become fluent in yourself. Let me tell you about someone. I'll call him David. David was the person everyone relied on. He always knew when a friend was struggling before they said a word. He remembered everyone's birthdays, sensed every shift in mood, smoothed over every conflict. People called him the most caring man they knew. And David was quietly falling apart. Because if you asked him what he actually wanted out of his own life, he genuinely did not know. The question made him feel like he was looking into a fog. When he traced it back, the picture was clear. David had grown up with a mother whose moods ran the household, who could turn warm or cold without warning. As a boy, his job, his unspoken job, was to read her, soothe her, keep her steady. He got so good at it that by adulthood, tuning into other people was automatic, effortless, the most natural thing in the world. But tuning into himself was a foreign language he'd never been taught. He wasn't codependent because he was weak. He was fluent in everyone else because, once, his safety had depended on it. He just never got to learn the one language that would have set him free, the language of his own inner life. There's real psychology under this, and it comes from Carl Rogers, one of the founders of humanistic psychology. He described something he called conditions of worth. A child, he observed, has a natural inner sense of what they feel and need, what he called the organismic valuing process. But when love and approval come only on certain conditions, when a child learns they're acceptable only if they please, soothe, or perform for others, they slowly stop trusting their own inner signals and start living by the conditions instead. They abandon their own experience in favor of what keeps the people around them approving. What we call codependency is, in Rogers' terms, a self that learned its own needs were the wrong thing to consult, and that the only safe compass was the feelings of everyone else. So if you've been calling yourself codependent, here are 3 things I want you to understand about what's really happening. First, your attunement is a gift, not a defect. The ability to sense what another person feels, to read a room, to anticipate a need, is rare and precious. The problem was never that you have it. The problem is that it runs in only one direction, outward, and the inward channel was never opened. You don't need to dismantle your empathy. You need to point some of it, finally, at yourself. Second, going blank about your own wants isn't emptiness. It's an unpracticed muscle. The reason you don't know what you want is not that there's nothing in there. It's that you were never allowed to look and never taught how. The self is still in there. It's just been waiting, quietly, beneath decades of attending to everyone else, for someone to finally ask it what it feels and mean it. Third, you can learn the missing language, and it starts small. You don't reclaim a self by suddenly putting yourself first. You do it by learning to notice, in tiny moments, what you actually feel. Do I want to go or stay? Am I tired or fine? Does this feel good or bad in my body? Each time you check inward instead of outward, you build a sentence in a language you were never taught. Fluency comes slowly, but it comes. So stop treating your deep care for others as a disease to be cured. You were never broken for loving people well. You simply learned only half of what a whole self needs, the half that reads everyone else, while the half that reads you was left undeveloped through no fault of your own. Pema Chodron once said that the most fundamental aggression to ourselves, the most fundamental harm we can do to ourselves, is to remain ignorant by not having the courage and the respect to look at ourselves honestly and gently. She understood that turning toward your own inner life isn't selfishness. It's the most basic form of respect a person can offer, the one self they were given. So this week, in the small moments, ask yourself the question no one ever asked you, and wait for the answer. What do I want right now in this? You spent a lifetime becoming fluent in everyone else. It's not too late to finally learn your own name. You were never codependent. You were just a brilliant translator who was never taught to speak their mother tongue.